The subject of the Bears bringing Julio Jones to Chicago has been one that has been talked about throughout a ton of Bears circles throughout the course of this offseason. Now, me being a Bears fan, of course, it is something that I've seen people talk about. It is something that I've heard other people's opinions on, and I've not really gave my own thoughts and my own opinions on Julio Jones becoming a Chicago Bear. But that is something that is going to change in today's video. I'm going to give my thoughts and opinions of why or why not should the Bears actually sign Julio Jones to this roster. But before I get into that, make sure you guys leave this video a like, as it always helps this channel to grow and it beats the YouTube algorithm. And about 96% of the people that watch my videos are not subscribed to the channel. So if you fit in that big percentage, make sure you click that subscribe button and notification bell so you will not miss any of the content that I post. And oh yeah, it's going to be a new intro in today's video. So without further ado, let's dive into it. One of the needs for the Chicago Bears coming into this offseason was help at the wide receiver position. Well, they did address some of those needs in free agency and in draft with signing Equinemi and St. Brown in free agency, as well as Byron Pringle, and they also drafted Julio Jones, a very speedy wide receiver in this year's draft, to pair with Darnell Mooney, who I believe is going to elevate into one of the better receivers in football. One thing that Equinemi and St. Brown brings is size, and another thing that Byron Pringle brings is a lot of speed. So is Julio Jones. He has a little bit of size to him as well as the speed. A lot of people that in Bears circles still think they could use a little bit more help at the wide receiver position to help elevate the game of Justin Fields and help him progress in year 2 of his NFL career. One of the names that has been brought up a ton is a guy like Julio Jones. Now, Julio Jones is coming off of a down year in Tennessee, which he was traded during the offseason of 2021. He only played in 10 games with 31 receptions for 434 yards and only 1 touchdown. Over the past 3 seasons of Julio Jones' career, he has not played a full 16-game season, with him missing 1 game in 2019. He only played 9 games in 2020, and he missed 7 games in 2021, all due to injury. Now, one thing about Julio Jones, when healthy, I still believe he is one of the better receivers in the NFL, entering into his age 33 season. Now, he has taken a step back from his prime years, in his best years, but I still think he can go onto any roster and make them a very productive roster and still bring something to the table. The thing is, the best ability is availability, and that is something Julio Jones has not been over the past 3 seasons. He has not had a 1,000-yard season since 2019. He hasn't had a season with over 100 catches since 2018, and he only has 1 double-digit season with touchdowns in his career, and that was 2012. Even though Julio Jones has still been widely regarded as one of the best receivers in the league, he's definitely taken a step back at this point of his career. The Tennessee Titans had some really good expectations for him, but he failed to live up to them, and that was why the Titans ended up releasing him this offseason. I'm going to give the pros as to why the Bears should sign Julio Jones. Number 1, he brings that veteran experience into your wide receiver room. He's been there and done that throughout the course of his career in this league, and he can help elevate the guys around him, help elevate Darnell Mooney, St. Brown, Pringle, give a mentorship to Julio Jones, and he brings a guy that he doesn't necessarily have the diva mentality. He doesn't have that mentality that it's me, me, me. He has been one of the more quiet superstar receivers that we have in the NFL. He brings a humbleness to your wide receiver room with his veteran presence and his eye for the football field and his smartness. He can help with Justin Fields reading the football field, not only in the film room, but he can have some continuity with Justin Fields as well as on the field that can help Justin Fields develop into 2022. He also brings a guy who has a lot of size, and he still has some very good speed. Even though he is entering his year 33 season in the NFL, he still brings a lot of experience. He still brings some talent. He still brings a lot to the table. And also, you can get him for a cheaper price. You can get a guy who can bring a lot to your table. You can get a guy who can bring some speed, bring some elements that can help develop Justin Fields in this new Getsy offense to your team, and you do not have to pay a very expensive price for him, because at this point of Julio Jones' career, he's at the point where he's going to be in a make it or break it type of deal. So you don't have to break the bag for him. You don't have to give him a big contract, and you don't have to pay the top dollar to get a guy with the name of Julio Jones in the building. Now, another pro is for some Bear fans is that a lot of Bear fans was unhappy that they didn't go after the big name free agents. This solves a bit of the problem as far as the name goes. There's no bigger name that you can bring in right now outside of probably Odell Beckham Jr. than Julio Jones to your offense. So they're going to solve a lot of problems with some Bear fans, not me in particular, but it's going to solve some of that problem of the big name. Now, some cons into bringing Julio Jones in is, number one, his health. He has been unable to stay healthy over the past couple of seasons. The best ability is availability, and he hasn't been available, and he needs to be available, especially when you have a second-year quarterback of Justin Fields, especially when you have a brand new offense brought in by Getsy, and you have some young core pieces on your roster that still needs some guidance and needs some help. He's not going to be on the field as often because of his past injury history. And another con to bringing in a guy like Julio Jones is Julio Jones actually going to want to be in Chicago? Because at the way the Bears stand right now, they are not at a point of where they are going to contend for a Super Bowl. And Julio Jones at this point of his career is a guy that wants to contend for a Super Bowl title. He wants to be in the playoffs. He wants to be on a very competitive team. And we're just going to be 100% honest. With the Chicago Bears team as constructed right now, they are not going to be a playoff team. They may be competitive, but I just do not see a scenario where the Bears make the playoffs in 2022. So Julio Jones is going to take a step back from being on a competitive teams with the Falcons, being on competitive teams with expectations like Tennessee last season, to a team with no real expectations as far as playoffs and Super Bowl championship contention go. And another con that can be had for bringing in a guy like Julio Jones is the fact of he's not going to be here for your long-term development. He's not going to be here for the long-term process that the Bears are on right now. Because as we stand where the Bears are, they're at least 2 seasons away from really being true contenders. Maybe one, depending on how 2023 offseason goes. But is Julio Jones going to be able to stay healthy enough? And is he going to be available? And is he going to be actually around for the years to come? In my opinion, it will be a decent move to sign Julio Jones. But in all reality, I don't think Ryan Poles and I don't think Matt Eberflus are going to look in the direction of Julio Jones despite what he can bring. I think they are still going to focus on developing some of those young guys, developing through the draft, which Ryan Poles has said he wants to do. And if you bring a guy in like Julio Jones, yes, he does bring value, but he takes some of those reps and he takes some of those snaps away from them, your younger developing players that can grow within this offense and be here for the long term. So, in my opinion, a Julio Jones signing can make sense, but do I think it's going to happen and do I think it should happen? I do not believe so, and that is why I believe the Bears should not sign Julio Jones. But hey, those are just my thoughts on that. Make sure you guys leave this video a like, as it always helps the channel to grow. Comment your thoughts down below. Do you believe the Bears should actually go after Julio Jones and sign him? I would love to see what you guys think. And as always, if you are not subscribed and you got to this point, make sure you click the subscribe button and notification bell so you will not miss any of the content that I post. But I am APW Sports signing out. Make sure you guys stay safe. Have a great next day, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.